Hi all. Now that I have finally finished grading Chapter 1 quiz, I can give you some feedback as a whole. These are just things I've picked out as I was taking notes from each of you from question 3 that you had some questions, or from 1 and 2 that I felt might need a little bit more clarification throughout the whole class that I didn't provide individual feedback for. So I wanted to touch base on them. One of those things was moving freely. So, moving freely about the classroom is really important. Some of you discussed having, a certain number of children assigned to each specific area, or, only allowing, 3 children in the block area at a time, or that kind of thing. That does give skills to children, but for a preschool child, those skills are not yet developmentally appropriate. So you're asking them to do things that they're not quite yet ready for. That's more of a kindergarten skill for them. So you want to watch your age group of children. Just as toddlers need to be able to dump and fill baskets of toys for their development, preschoolers need to be able to freely move around their class, and that includes moving things from area to area. Now, I'm not asking you to allow them to destroy their room or turning into, the aftermath of a tornado. No, not at all. But that doesn't mean that when they're building that they can't go get something that they need. So a good analogy of this is sandcastles. When you're at the beach and you build a sandcastle, yes, they look pretty cool just as sand, you know, but really it's just sand. And to a child, sometimes you need more. And if they wanted to add seashells and we said to them, no, sorry, you can't add a seashell to your sandcastle because that's not sand and shells belong in the water. Or if they wanted to add a feather on the top of it for, I don't know, a flag or something, and we said, no, feathers belong on birds and, not in sand. So no, you can't put a feather on it. Or a stick, and we said, no, sticks belong on trees. It's the same kind of thing. So if they're building in blocks and they have a really neat block tower and all of a sudden they need a roof or something, and they run into dramatic play and grab a plate and they run back and they put it on top and they think, oh, perfect roof. Are they hurting anything? No. They know where that plate belongs. They will know where to put it back at. It's not going to do anything, and yet they've accomplished what they're building. They've problem solved. They've, become little engineers and mathematicians. They've gone into balance. They've, done all these different cause and effect kind of things in their head, and we can't hinder that because we're so stuck on, no, that plate needs to stay in dramatic play. We need to open up and relax and give them a little bit of their freedom back. The same thing with number of children. Unless there's a real way or real reason, that they can't be in that area because it's, maybe a safety concern. There literally can't be that many children in that area because they're sitting on each other. Let them try to figure it out. A lot of children won't want to play in a cramped space. They'll automatically move out, and maybe they're engaged in a play where they need to be in a tight space with a lot of them. And so you monitor it, watch it, but allow it to happen to an extent. See what's going on. Okay. The next one was inquiry-based learning. Children really need that. They learn by doing. Remember, they learn best through their senses, and through their most information they're going to get through their senses is by doing it. So if you give them locks and keys, and then figure it out. They will spend hours with locks and keys over and over and over. That is a great thing. They will sort them and classify them. They might even pattern them. They're problem solving. They're doing all kinds of things. And that's really important. Mixing paint colors and what colors make a different color. And it's all more learning than what we can tell them by saying, well, if you mix these two colors, you'll get this color. They learn so much more by doing it themselves. Flipping rocks over, giving them the environment where they can flip things over and find out what's underneath it. Being able to dig around outside or even look for things inside. Being very inquisitive. That's how they learn. And then finally, actually not even finally, but another example I'm going to give you would be cooking projects. And I hear all the time, we can't cook. You absolutely can cook. Licensing allows you to take children into the kitchen to cook for cooking activities, that kind of thing. You can cook. If your children are too young, yes, you might want to modify. I'm not asking you to put them, for stove or that kind of thing. Maybe you handle the stove, maybe you handle the oven part, but can they do everything before that? Toddlers, like the picture is, making Play-Doh is a fantastic cooking activity for toddlers. Being able to let them see that flour can go kind of from a liquid and then back to a solid again as they're making that Play-Doh consistency. That's important. Okay, the next one I wanted to touch on is your class speaks to you. So I have pictured here 3 different kindergarten classrooms. They are very different kindergarten classrooms. They are all located within public school systems or public school buildings within Washington State. And they're all very different. And what does each one say about the teacher in there? All the wall colors you can see is about the same. 2 of them, I believe, have about the same flooring. One of them has carpet, which, you can't do much about your flooring in a public school setting. But what has the teacher themselves done with that space? And what would you do with that space? And that says a lot about you and about the children that work in that space. Okay, so make sure you think about that. How you organize what you put on the walls, how much you put on the walls, the colors you use. You need to be careful with colors too. So another one that I wanted to touch on is scent. That was brought up by quite a few of you. You were worried about scents, and yes, you need to be worried about scents. Going for strong scents is too much for children. Floral scents, flowery scents is normally too much for children. If you need to have different scent in your classroom, look for fruitier, lighter stuff that's very light is best, with the 2 exceptions of vanilla. Vanilla is very calming. It is great in a toddler room for covering up diaper smells. And then lavender. Lavender is also extremely calming, but can be overpowering if you put too much. So less is more when you do scents. You don't want it to be so much. You want it to be very subtle, very you smell it, but it's not your main focus of what you smell, if that's making sense. So you want to be careful of that. Okay, so when you walk in a room, you want to be able to smell, paint and maybe that kind of thing that children are engaged in, or Play-Doh, and maybe have a hint of another smell if you choose to put scents in a room. I didn't use too many scents within a classroom. Primarily when I did would be toddler rooms for the reason of diaper changing. Same with infant rooms. I used vanilla a lot because they're really well at covering those diaper smells. So yeah, you do want to be careful. You do not want them to be overpowering. Natural is best if you can get essential oils and use very littles of those. Those are the best. They even have essential oils that you can put on or around light bulbs that just when the light bulb gets warm, it'll just let off a little bit of oil. Those are the best, better than aerosol sprays and those kinds of things. So do a little bit of research on what you're going to use. Okay, and I believe that was it. I hope you have a fantastic week. I will get to your grading your quiz too, and I will touch base on that afterwards. Thanks much.